Welcome back to a special Sunday night edition of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm here live with Chris, the technician Aceto, on this December 19th, 2021 evening. And Chris, how's everything going over there in Maine? It was a busy weekend at the NPC Nationals.
Yeah, but you look like you got something to say. You can barely contain yourself, Dave.
No, I was just, it was funny. I was talking to King Kamali on the phone before, and we were both saying how it was really a good nationals. Like, everyone was in shape. There was great conditioning. You know, we'll talk about the drama in a minute, but really, when you look at the nationals as a whole, I think that it was elevated above what we've been used to seeing at the amateur level over the last couple of years.
It's the turnout in terms of numbers in bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
You know, the thing I was hoping to not see is like 5 people in a couple classes, you know, like a single class where you get like 8. That's happened recently, like 8 or 10
Chris,
people.
there was elimination rounds. When was the last time we saw an elimination round, you know?
Well, you know, besides having a lot of depth, I think the physiques, you know, 1st through 10th were, in most classes, you'd have to say were outstanding.
That's an understatement, really, when you think about it. I mean, Carlos Thomas Jr., I mean, really delivered. I think
he over-delivered.
He's a tremendous talent. I worked with him, early on in his career, and I knew this guy was going to be a champion.
It's going to be a really special treat. We got 8-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman here, 4-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler on the same stage. These guys battle around on the Olympia.
There we go. I don't know what that was, but let's pull this up.
This is you. What I'm watching a video of you. Critiquing the show from your house?
This was my wrap up. I wanted to just pull some video footage up here for just to take a look. Look at Carlos Thomas in this overall, Chris. He's the shortest guy up there. The light heavy and the heavyweight are way taller than him. When was the last time we saw that?
Yeah, I mean he's I think he's phenomenal. I think he's just totally outstanding.
Isn't that funny though? I mean, look at him. I mean, when was the last time you've seen a super heavyweight be the shortest guy?
Well, I mean, he just reminds me of, and Nate Speer looked phenomenal too. By the way, he got second. But he just reminds me of one of these national winners in way years past, where you see the winner and you say, well, he can make an impact in the pros. Because the truth of the matter is it's been a while where you see somebody, where you think like, okay, he's going to do really well as a pro. I mean, the shocking thing is, like, even when Nick Walker won the North Americans, he made, after the North Americans, a big jump.
Yeah.
But it's not like during the show. Not only that, but I mean, this presentation is like professional level. Just level of confidence. Doesn't look awkward up there. Hits the poses perfect.
Yeah. He was a middleweight, Chris, a couple of years ago. If you think about that, the jump. I mean, he didn't go from like middleweight to like light heavyweight. He went from middleweight to super heavyweight. That's crazy,
and a damn good one.
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked to seen him a little bit drier and harder, maybe in that back area, and that's not his best body part, but he's got so many bells and whistles, and we talk about bells and whistles and cartoonish character-looking muscle, a la Phil Heath, that he's one of these guys that's almost impossible to beat unless he's really, really off, right?
Well, he's got quads, and I mean, we haven't had a super heavy winner with really, really good quads in a long time, meaning full from the hips right down to the knee.
Yeah.
Inside and outside, the sweep, the medialis.
Yeah, his side leg is ridiculous too, right?
Oh yeah, everything is. I mean, the quarter turn with the hamstring, it's he's the real deal.
And when you see it, very rarely, I don't think we've had a national champion that was, at least in the nationals that I can remember, that was this dominant. I don't think it was close at all, between him and anyone else in the show. And he had a lot of pre-hype going into the show, which makes it more reminiscent of the 90s, right? Because in the 90s, we kind of knew who the dangerous guys were going into the show. And this year was the same way. We knew Nate Speer was going to be really good. We knew that Carlos Thomas was really good going into this show. And so they delivered, so to speak, right?
Well, the thing, Dave, too, is, when you have hype, it puts a lot of pressure on you, and it shows what you're made of, because a lot of people can collapse under the hype.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of other good physiques who have come down the pike in the last 4 years. Some of them have had good shows. Some of them had the same person of persons have had great shows, and then they've had shows that went south real quick, and that's a lot of it is due to outside pressure. What you're thinking about, you get distracted from what you're trying to do, be the best bodybuilder that you can, because the expectations are set so high. I mean, it sounds simple, right? People who's not at his level would be someone who's listening to the show, or anyone, if you're a bodybuilder, you'd be like, oh no, if I had that, hype coming in, I'd, blow the doors down. Well, for a lot of people, everyone's human, you fall apart a lot of times with the hype. And he did not. He did just the opposite, obviously, by delivering what he delivered.
Yeah, I thought it was a great victory for him, and we're gonna break down the rest of the classes in a little bit. But I'm getting phone calls from people.
I know you are, Dave. Get to the gossip.
It's the Vice President Sid Faruqi. Sid Faruqi,
put him on live, Dave.
You're on live with us. Yeah, they can't hear you though. What's the president have to say over there? Is this urgent? Because we are live on YouTube for the audience. All right, text me. Thank you. Sid didn't want to let the news out of the bag too fast. Oh, I got to be honest, Chris. I actually missed being at the Nationals this year. Usually, the last couple of years with the COVID and everything like that, and I'm still don't want to go because of COVID. But I actually missed being there this year, watching it on the live stream. And I got to tell you, Gary Udit, as a promoter, did such a great job these last 2 years of pulling this show out of the Stone Age, as I like to say. That stone cutter that was running it before.
Much better, right?
That stone cutter that was running it before. Gary pulled it out. Did you see the screens behind all the athletes where they had all the sponsors and they had the class in the middle, so you knew what class was up on the stage? I mean, just top notch, at that Orlando Convention Center.
Gary is the originator of the 3,000 people in a show, which is
right.
The North Americas
and Masters, yeah.
Yeah, the whole giant 3-day weekend that he does, and I mean, he's obviously the perfect person to put on a show like this, because look at the turnout here. I mean, I know some people.
It's not even the turnout; it's the way it was presented, Chris. It was a very comfortable environment for the athletes, because I talked to them all. I had a few guys in the show, and it just looked professional on the live stream. I saw Yamamoto was the live stream sponsor. They had it on their site. It was also on YouTube. I know I think they had a problem on the live stream on the Yamamoto site on Saturday night, but it was on YouTube too. I watched the whole thing, and it was pleasurable, because I was doing stuff. I was watching the classes I wanted to watch, and I was able to capture some video footage for the highlights. It was a pleasurable experience. I mean, he really modernized it in the sense that now people were able to see it on social media and comment, and it was a fun experience. And it hadn't been fun for a long time, Chris. It had gotten to the point where it was a very uncomfortable environment.
Well, you made the point. Steve Carroll was an idiot.
Yeah.
Speaking of idiots, usually when I read the comment section, 20%, not all of you guys are idiots, but the Red Loop says, and I agree with him, can't wait for Romano to chime in, but he also says, Dave's something like licking his chops on the Bob Chick story. I can tell. Get to the main story, Dave. I'm kidding.
No. So, I mean, I had texted Gary to tell him what a great job he did, because Gary and I are friends. And, I just wanted to compliment. I know Robin Chang was running the backstage, and he, I've had my differences, but he does a good job back there. So they put on a very professional show. And
Dave, let me just say this to give Robin his props, because you said what's important is the presentation. Absolutely.
And the athlete experience. The athlete experience.
That too. But part of the athlete experience is when you have, I don't know how many competitors they had this weekend, 1,000. The logistics of it all. You can't wing it. I know people competing in Tunisia this past weekend, and they're like, there's so many people in the show they didn't expect and didn't know how to manage, the giant turnout. So here, they know how to do it. It's important.
The important thing also, though, is you want to make the athletes feel special. So when, to get to the Bob Chick story, when you're looking for an MC to MC a show, okay, and you're going to get a guy like Bob Chick or whoever does it, Sid does it or so whatever, you want the athletes to feel important. Now, as you know, Chris, in a show of this magnitude, not everyone gets to do their posing routine, only the top 5 in each class. And a lot of these guys in the bigger classes didn't even get to do their 60-second or whatever it is, 45-second, at prejudging because they did an elimination round. So only the top 15 actually pose at the prejudging. The other guys just kind of get introduced and they do, whatever. So, you want the athletes to feel special. So I guess Gary, had hired Bob, and part of Bob's job as the MC was to not only announce the night show, but to do the prejudging, announce all the athletes as they come out one at a time. That's the job. And I guess Bob didn't want to do that last year. He wanted to only do the finals because he said, oh, my voice, I'm going to lose my voice, and it's going to ruin the Bob Chick mystique if I do the prejudging too.
The bad tour, Michael Jackson, took him 18 months. He only lost his voice at the very end, but go ahead.
So I guess last year, Gary had to have a talk, whatever. They had to talk about, hey, Bob, you got to do it. And Bob wound up doing it, and he did a good job. So, and Gary said he even paid him extra last year because he did such a good job. This year, I guess the same deal. Gary, told him, Bob, you got to be here, or whatever, Friday morning and Saturday morning and Saturday night to do the prejudging, 2 prejudgings, and then the night show. All right, no problem. Oh, I'll be there. So I guess the prejudging comes around on Friday morning, and Bob's nowhere to be found, according to what. And now I got the story, by the way, directly from Gary Udit. We talked on the phone. So this is not hearsay. I called the source because I said, I don't want to hear all these rumors out there. I don't know who to believe. I'll call Gary. Gary would know the story, right? He's the one who fired him. So Gary said, this show is about to start, and Bob's nowhere to be found. So he's like, what am I going to do? So, he had someone call Bob. In the meantime, Gary said, look, I've done this before. This is not rocket science. I'll read the names, So Gary used to do the Masters, if you remember, all the time himself. His own show, he used to MC it. Mm-hmm. So he's reading the names. And I guess after 15, 20 minutes, Bob shows up and, oh, what's up, bro? You know how Bob is. What's up, bro? You want me to take over? And so Gary at this point is mad. He's like, look, I hired this guy, to do a job. He doesn't show up. He knew the deal because we already went over this last year and we went over it this year. So I said, no, why don't you just go home, because Gary's upset. Gary shouldn't have to be reading names. He's the promoter of the show, right? I mean, he should be worried about how the show's running. So
it'd be like you gluing the labels on to textualize. But go ahead.
I mean, I've seen Gary used to set the chairs up right in the auditorium before the show. Gary does everything. The guy is a workhorse. When he runs a show, he has his hands on everything. Because he wants the athlete experience to be great, and that's what it's all about. That's why he's a good promoter. That's why he's a great promoter, actually. So Gary tells Bob, look, you know what, Bob? Go talk to so-and-so. I'm not going to mention names. I don't want to bring anyone's name. If he says it's okay, fine, you can do it. So from what Gary tells me, then he gets worried that Bob said he'll just do the night show, which is what Bob wanted to do to begin with. But that's not what Bob was hired to do. Bob was hired to do the whole show. So Gary's like, I don't need him. So I guess Gary did the prejudging. Shannon Day took over and did the Saturday, and that was the end of it. But then I guess Bob was upset which I can understand Bob being upset with Gary telling him you're fired, basically. And he was bad mouthing. He was like saying he was threatening Gary. He was like telling people outside the auditorium, I'm going to put Gary up against the wall, and basically going to rough him up, so to speak. And I guess one of Gary's friends came back there. I'm not going to mention names, and said that Bob told me.
We'd love to know. You got to tell me all these names after.
I'll tell him
all the evidence, the sculptory evidence.
Well, Gary figured, maybe Bob was just telling his own friends that, in which case he could understand. He was upset. But I guess Bob was telling Gary's friends this too. So Gary fucking, was like, this guy's unbelievable, How dare he, So that's the whole story. There's really no story. Bob being Bob. That's all. Bob thought he was too good to do the prejudging. He wanted to only do the night show. Like he's a superstar, like, Brad Pitt or something like that. And that was what the job was. So he fired him. I mean, I guess that, Gary's entitled to fire you, right?
So who ended up doing the finals?
Shannon Day. So she was good.
And what's the ramifications from this, though?
Nothing. I don't. From what I don't think Gary's going to hire Bob again. Obviously, so that's one less show Bob can do. I'm sure Bob's got plenty of shows to do. He doesn't need the Nationals. Look, the bottom line, and you know this, Chris. You've worked for people. If someone hires you to do a job, you do the job. You don't try to get out of it. I mean, he should be.
Who do you think is on the phone today trying to get that job for next year? Bing. Go ahead, Dave. We always play game show. You read my mind.
Probably Sean Ray.
Of course.
If I was Sean Ray, I'd lay very low.
He would just weasel in there like nothing happened, and help you out next year. Charge you half of what Bob charged you. I'll do the prejudging.
They hired Sean Ray to write the obituary.
I was just gonna use the word the obituary.
No, but so look, I don't blame Gary because Gary's a perfectionist, and that's why I started off by saying how good the show was. And the show is good because Gary makes sure that the show is good. And that's something that you have to understand about the fact that the reason the show is so great is because all the working parts work together. And if one working part thinks it's better than the other working parts, then the job doesn't get done. So Bob is just not a good component. Bob might be better for smaller shows. The Nationals is a lot of people. It's a lot of announcing. Maybe Bob doesn't have the energy to do that anymore. He's not a young guy. He's 50 years old now. He's in his 50s. Maybe it's too much for him. I don't know. It's a possibility, right?
You know what? I'm Mr. and Mrs. Blackman. That's Steve Blackman's parents once. And someone who got fired by Steve Blackman. And a lot of people, no job is, there's nothing wrong with being fired by Steve Blackman. I was fired by Steve Blackman.
I've been fired by him, yeah.
Well, we were let go. You were fired. We were just going another direction.
But, you and Cedric. Cedric was in another direction too, right? Did you get fired by FedEx?
Who knows?
Yeah.
When the person who was fired, and the interesting thing as an aside, that Steve Blackman lets go like the most talented people, but he's a survivor. He actually still puts out that magazine somehow, all 3 pages of it. But his mom told an employee, a high-level employee at Twin Labs / MD, when they were on a plane one day, she said, quote, and I'll never forget this, every employee is expendable.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's a lot of insight to that, because for many reasons you can get fired. You can be a great worker and get lazy. That happens with me, with people who work for me. They're tremendous, and then they take advantage of you. They get lazy. But there's a lot of insight into that. And when Joe Weider ties in with Joe Weider, also said, when everyone left to the WBF, I'll never forget him telling me. He said, "I'll just create new champions.
Yeah,
I will create new champions." He said, "My magazine, I'm the whatever. I can't remember."
I had an employee once tell me, Chris, that he was the Michael Jordan of the company. But
well, there you go. Anyone who thinks that Michael Jordan of anything,
he was the Michael Jordan of the company. Not me. He was the Michael Jordan of the company.
Well, if he's bringing in checks that you just can't even imagine, God, he just brought in another check for $10,000.
Put it this way:
the Michael Jackson.
When he left, our revenue stream went up.
Michael Jordan.
I don't think he was the Michael Jordan. He might have been the cleanup crew guy. But anyway, neither here nor there. Gary's the promoter. Gary makes the rules. If you want to work for the guy who makes the rules, you follow the rules. And so Bob didn't follow the rules, and he got kicked. That's it. He got fired. It is what it is. Look, Bob should have just said, you know what? I don't work. I don't want to do the prejudging. And then Gary could have said, well, then I don't want to hire you. And Bob would have been okay. That would have been acceptable because Bob can make his own terms as the MC.
But was there a contract there? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure. Of course there is. But but they had clarified this ahead of time because Gary had the problem last year with Bob. So everything was set up that Bob knew he had to do prejudging. So I don't know what the mistake was, but Bob just chose not to do it. Bob just should have said, Gary, look, I only want to do the finals. If you don't want to, if you need me for both, I hire someone else for the job. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's enough. Let's not waste any more energy on that. Let's go back to the Nationals here for a second. All right, so Carlos Thomas clear-cut super heavy winner, clear-cut overall winner. You know, where do you see Carlos Thomas going from this point forward? He's obviously too big to be a 212 guy.
I heard not.
How's he going to go from super heavy down to 212?
I heard he's close. I heard he's closer than you think to what's the super? Oh, maybe he's not.
He's a super heavyweight.
Okay, 225. Yeah. Where's he go? He goes to the New York Pro, and
he's kind of like a Jonathan De La Rosa in a sense, structurally, you know, with the height and everything like that. I think he's got better gifts, but you know, he's similar structure to him, don't you think?
Yeah. He's got better quads. He's got, but structurally, yes, it's a great comparison. Actually, John probably has a better back
at this point.
Yeah, at this point. But that's what you have to think about is if the guy was a middleweight 10 weeks ago or whatever it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like his body looks so fresh. It doesn't look like one of these. But that's what's unique. That's what's surprising about it is he looks like. It looks like he didn't have to do a lot to look like that, if that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense.
He wasn't pushing envelopes.
No. He's like a big blown up Keon Pearson, right?
Yeah, he's like I think the comparison to John De La Rosa was like dead on the money. The front double looks exactly like John's. When he was
small waist, big arms, big chest.
Yeah, and
big calves.
And just similar side triceps, probably better side chest. His pecs are fuller.
Yeah.
Where's he go? I think he surprises a lot of people. I think that the win helps a lot with self-confidence. It doesn't mean that he did not have self-confidence before, but it's always nice to get validated by the judges, in terms of not only.
And I think he had
the expectation that you were going to win, but
I think he had some confidence issues just from talking to him over the last.
Well, I mean, everyone does.
I told him, I said, look, you know what? I said, it's not a question of whether you're going to be a pro or not. It's only when you're going to be a pro. I mean, there's no doubt that you're going to be a great pro one day. You have to just be patient. I said, because the process of building muscle and getting that maturity to your muscle is just going to take time. You just have to keep reapplying the same process over and over again. And I said, you will get that. And I told him this when he was a middleweight. And that when I've talked to him a couple times during his prep this year, I said, same thing. I said, look, just show up. Don't start doubting yourself. Don't think that you're not good enough. Show up. Let the judges place you where they want. If you're good enough to win, you'll win. I said, I wanted him to know that it's okay not to win if there's someone better than you. I think a lot of people are afraid, even though they know they have good talent and they have good tools and they're bringing a great physique, they're like afraid that maybe they're not going to live up to the expectations of what the social media world thinks of them. And I said, it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks of you. Just go and enjoy it. You love bodybuilding. Go pose, and if it's meant to be, you'll go to win the show. If there's someone better than you, then don't worry about it. You'll come back and you'll do it the next time. And so I think that mindset was what he brought to the stage, and he let it all out. And here it is. Here I am. And he was the best. And that's how it works. And you don't have to be Carlos Thomas to have that same mindset. That's the same mindset that everyone should take. I helped Chris Fine, who came in fourth, and he looked the best he ever could look. I said, Chris, you're the best that you can be. You're fourth at the Nationals, a very competitive super heavyweight class. That's your best. Now you go back to the drawing board and you bring back something better next year. I said, that's the process of bodybuilding. If you don't like that process, then you're in the wrong sport. It's a process of continually doing the same thing over and over and over repetitively until you get to the point where you've arrived, so to speak, right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
Very boring process if you don't really like what you're doing.
The key words there is repetition and patience, and both of them are easier said than done.
Yeah, very, very, very true. I mean, because it's not a sport where it happens overnight. Very few guys are like Phil Heath, where they just show up and they're like, ready to turn pro and win pro shows. It just doesn't happen like that. Let's take a look at, where is this? Just the video. That's not the video. I got people texting me. What's going on out there today? It's very busy Sunday night here, Chris.
Yeah.
On Heavy Muscle Radio. You know what? Whenever there's gossip, I'm the first. Everyone's always like reaching out to me with the gossip, you know. And you know, I don't know sometimes. I didn't know what the answer to what happened with Bob Chick was. That's why I had to call Gary. Let's talk about Nate Speer. What do you like about him?
Well, this is his best. I mean, you just talked about being patient and being repetitive, and I think it seems, you know, that's what he's done because, I mean, he's moved up, and as he moves up, he's been better, you know, gets better, and he's refined his physique, which is nice to see because I don't think he's any bigger than he's been in the past. And a lot of people would have made the mistake to try to get bigger. I mean, it's great to get bigger if you can come in with the same quality. I think what he did is he probably got a little bit bigger here, but with definitely better quality than he's had in the past. And he's been in very, very good condition in the past. I just think that this level of condition, and these pictures probably don't do him justice, you know, in terms of what his real level of condition is. But I mean, he looks pretty darn sharp there. But this is his best, and he ended up getting a pro card with it, right? Top 2.
Absolutely,
and I think that if Thomas wasn't there, you know, or Carlos Thomas, is that what it, you know, he definitely would have won. You know, I don't think you could argue that he could win because, you know, they're just two totally different physiques. But it's not that he was any like slump second place. That's for damn sure.
He was so hard here that at this show, and I watched it on the video and I see the pictures, that really he was much tighter than Carlos was.
Yes.
I mean, we're gushing over Carlos Thomas, but let's face it, he could have been tighter from behind, you know, especially in his back. I mean, Nate Speer was way, way more conditioned, but when you have the bells and whistles and all the tools and the cartoonish muscle, it's almost impossible to beat a guy like that. Well, it's got to be frustrating, Chris, for a guy like Nate Speer to bring his best and still not win, you know?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, quote, it technically probably could have gone either way if Carlos wasn't so cartoonish. You know, it's fun to see a cartoonish looking physique.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which is different than, you know, someone who's big and hard, you know, but yeah, Nate, he was really sharp here.
Do you say to yourself at some point, Chris, like who's going to make the better pro too?
Well, do I say that to, does who say
that?
that?
There's the judges. I think they have to say that to themselves, right?
I think they get, you know, regardless, they get impressed with, and I am too, with the cartoonishness, you know, I mean, you know, let's face it, we have a cartoonish Mr. Olympia. Looks like a cartoon character. So if, you know, that's what judges like is cartoon looking. We haven't, you know, when Akeem won, he was looking, you know, when he won his pro card, he was a cartoon. Mm-hmm. You know, when you have like giant arms, giant legs, right, big delts.
Nick Walker.
Nick Walker. It puts you in the driver's seat against everyone else in conditions, you know, regardless of coming in super crazy peeled like Nate did. It's hard to overcome when someone's looks like a cartoon.
I agree. Let's talk about the heavyweight class winner, who's also obviously a pro. And all these guys we're talking about are getting pro cards because, like you said, the top 2 in every weight class in men's bodybuilding will get the pro card. That's a relatively new to us, at least here. Back in the day, it was only the winners. This is Justin Shear, and he wins the heavyweight class. And I actually, when I first saw them in the lineup, I didn't think that he was going to win the class. And he won this class because he was the most conditioned guy in that heavyweight class. That's really what pushed him over the edge, for sure.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think it came down to condition. You know, big arms, big delts, you know, great condition. You know, you have big arms, big delts, and, you know, good legs too.
There were guys that had better physiques, but I just think his conditioning was so good that it just brought out the best in him, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with you because I would agree with you. You know,
you see a lot of polish to his physique, you know, when you're that hard and you flex on stage, the polish aspect, you can't discount that. You know, it adds another level of like, you know, look at this side chest shot. Hold on, let me pull this side chest shot. I know you like the side chest shot. This is
side chest is great.
This
full
is
pecs, full shoulders, full arms.
I mean, it's got the side, when the side leg is that crazy, you know, I'm very impressed. You can tell this guy did his homework. That's a great shot. I mean, that shot, you know, might be Carlos Thomas in that shot. You know, it's funny that he's a lot taller than Carlos too. I mean, he looks way bigger than 225. I don't even know how he made the weight, this guy, to be honest with you. But he probably sucked every ounce of water. He pulled a Chris Aceto, you know, dropped 15 pounds to make weight, you know. How do you think? Let me ask you this question: how would Carlos Thomas have done had he sucked down to heavyweight? Would he look wackier?
He would have looked wackier, but the super heavy version would have been more cartoonish and beaten the wackier version.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because you know what? Had he come down lower, his quads would have been crazy out of control, diced nuts.
Right.
And we'd be critical of his back shots. Right? Because he would have lost volume in his back for like super crazy wacky detail. And
so are you saying that he needs to just bring his back up essentially?
Yeah, I mean,
so he can get that conditioning, that shrink wrap conditioning, without losing the volume aspect of it.
Yeah, and then the other thing is when a lot of times if you go from a middleweight to a super heavyweight, the body is just not ready to be. I mean, he was in very good condition, but it's not ready to be lights out condition after having gained 50 pounds. It just doesn't work that way. You know, that's why when you see someone come in like, oh, I'm 226. What do you the next year? I'm 225. Right. Oh, you look way bigger, but you're crazy condition to last year. It's the same weight. You know, you have the ability to super dial it in, but when you've gained that amount of muscle,
he's got to make it his own, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think he did 100% right by coming in as a super.
Okay.
Even though
I'm just wondering what you think. I know Melvin Anthony did the same thing. Remember when Melvin won the USA?
Yeah.
He was a heavyweight. He somehow made the super heavyweight class. And I thought it was a mistake because he was obviously one of the smallest super heavyweights. But the volume he had and the roundness, I guess, was what won it for him, I think. You know?
Yeah, well, the tie-ins, the shape, the flow.
He certainly could have sucked down to 225. He was probably right there.
Yeah. He wanted to be the super.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Jordan Janowitz, who was second in that heavyweight class, and he got his pro card as well. He'd been knocking on the door for a number of years now. Pretty impressive. What'd you like about him?
That this was his best. I mean, it's what can't you like about someone when they brought their all-time best? You know? I mean, there's been shows, you know, where I've seen him where he's really big but not in good condition. Shows where he's in great condition but like seemed to have lost like the bigness that he had running into the show. And I think this is the right combination where he's in really, really good shape and really round. And, you know,
and
for a lot of people, right, it's being your best. Bringing your best is, you know, places you the best.
Yeah. And he's very well conditioned from behind. And that, I mean, a lot of these shows are determined, you know, when they turn around, hit that back double bicep, the reason why they make those guys hit the back double bicep 4,000 times is because a lot of times that's the determining factor as to who places where they place. You know, when it's all said and done, a lot of times it's the back that will be that swing pose that really changes everything. And if you have a good back double and you're dry and hard, he's got the glutes and hamstrings and he's got a good back and his lower back, he's got no loose skin hanging off of it. You can tell the guy dieted. You can tell he suffered. You know, that's what I see. A level of suffering that, you know, some of these other guys don't want to go there. You could tell the guys who almost got there, right, Chris? Like,
I mean, you could tell who people almost got there, and look at that. You know, to be first or to be second in your class in this show, I think most of the judges, unless you have just a ton of muscle, they're going to want to see that you have some type of very serious condition to be able to, you know, land in that spot.
Here's our light heavyweight winner, Michael Condell. I thought was really great too. I mean, he's a tall guy for light heavyweight, but he flows well. I felt.
Yeah, I like this kid's physique. This guy's physique.
I mean, I almost think like, you know,
this has got he's got a lot of potential.
I mean,
just square.
Imagine him at 212, another 12 pounds of muscle on that frame.
And I can tell you right now, guarantee it's going to be easy for him to put it on. You can just tell.
Yeah, he probably sucked down like
full pecs, good shoulders. Legs are good. Really great level of condition.
And if he would have come in as a heavyweight here, he wouldn't have had that. I don't think he would have had as much wow.
No, he would not have.
And he would have still been good. Don't get me wrong, but I think it was absolutely the right. This is what they back in the 90s. This is what guys did. There was no super heavyweight class. It was a heavyweight class. So guys that were on the borderline went down to light heavyweight. I mean, and a lot of times they had to lose a lot of weight, right?
Yeah, but the light heavy class was just devastatingly hard usually.
I mean, we like to bring up what's his name, not Willie Stalling. Willie Stalling was a light heavyweight, but Derek Whitsitt. I mean, he was a heavyweight who sucked down to light heavyweight in 1994 and won the Nationals.
Yeah.
So, look at that side tricep. Look at how grainy. Like you could just tell this. The guy doesn't have an ounce of body fat on him.
Yeah, he's got good fullness, great condition.
I love to see guys that do their homework and that don't leave anything to chance. And that's. And I got news for you. The guy he beat in this class was really good. And I actually thought when I was watching it on the video, I thought, he was going to win. I was like, I don't know how they can't give it to this guy. Chauncey Heatley, he's really good too. And that's why when we started out the show, Chris, we were talking about how good the quality of competitor was at this show. This is the first national I can remember where everyone who's turned pro was like amazing, and that they can go into the pro ranks and make a difference.
It's the Hardy Chupin effect.
Maybe, I don't know.
It is because I'm serious. Like Hardy does the Olympia, he's not by any means the biggest guy in the show.
Yeah,
but he came in at least the night show dialed out of his brains, And
I think Chauncey Heatley has got a tremendous future. I think if this guy puts on another 15 pounds of muscle, he's going to be like a little Flex Wheeler. This guy. I mean, this is an amazing physique.
Yeah, great arms, great taper, great legs.
And if I remember correctly, I think he was posing like Kai Green on stage, wasn't he?
Nope. Nobody posed like Kai Green.
I think he did like I'm pretty sure he was doing a pretty crazy routine, if I remember correctly, from what I saw. He was really good, very good stage presence, and you know what? That goes a long way. Let's pull up one more picture. Let's pull this picture. Hold on. I'm impressed when I see guys that I don't really know, that I didn't know too much about prior to the show, and that really impressed me. And I think you got to put him into that category. I mean, he's got all the tools. He just needs a little bit more muscle on his body at this point. I mean, that's what makes this sport exciting, because in the last, I'd say 2 years or so, we've just seen guys improve and improve and improve, and we've seen a lot of new talent come out of this, out of the Nationals, USA, North American. I think he's going to be a top guy. If you have to take the super heavies, light heavyweights, and evaluate them, Chris, in I guess you could say in comparison to years past, where would you put this show? How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 100?
I mean, I thought, I would just say that in terms of the Nationals, it just seems like maybe in the last 7 years, this is definitely one of the better Nationals in terms of depth and quality. From, it's put it this way, the top 7, let's say 8, 10, and the supers were all very good. A lot of times you get top 4 are good, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all bunched together and they're not really quite in shape. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because there's no limit on what they can weigh. So people make the mistake of coming in heavy, and by definition, the name super heavyweight class gets into your subconscious, and you think you have to be bigger on the scale because there's no weight limit.
Right.
And clearly here the heavies was a tremendous class. The middles, all of the classes, people were in great shape. So I think it was a great Nationals, and it's great to say when there's a great show. Just like it's great to say when there's a great pro show. It's exciting.
I actually enjoyed sitting home and watching it on the live stream. Usually I'll walk away, I'll get bored. I actually did not want to leave the screen. I was my eyes were glued to the set. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
And that's a rarity. I don't really notice that very often in my world, at least, at least in the last couple of years. And so I have to believe that we had and maybe it was because, maybe we're getting over COVID now. We're getting back to what we should get back to. Here's our men's classic.
Dude, this guy can go both ways.
Eric Avalon.
Classic.
He almost looks like a bodybuilder to me. I don't even know how he made weight.
When I saw this guy, I said, great classic, but he could, whatever the weight he is, he could have done really well in the bodybuilding. Great stand and relax. Great shoulder width. Kind of looks like Sergio there too. From the
you're right. You're right.
The way the arms are shaped and the lats and the midsection.
Yep.
He's really impressive, and he beat a bazillion guys in the classic.
No, he was. I mean, he was the overall.
It's funny in his head. I'd be curious. Like, he reminds me of George Peterson. The first time I saw George Peterson, he won the classic, and I was thinking the same thing. Is like, what's in his head? Like, how's this guy determine? I'm going to do the classic, or I'm going to do the bodybuilding. Maybe his vision for his physique is like he likes the classic, but he's got enough muscle for darn sure.
Maybe he'll go into the open in the pro ranks. It's possible. Here's Cody Acree. He won the D class or E class, I should say. Hold on, let's see. Pull this up. I love these class. The classic guys are really good. A lot of good muscle here.
Yeah, he looks very good too. Very good.
Now, when you compare these guys, why does this is the Class C winner? Why does Cody, lose to, say, Eric Avalon?
I think that Eric is just bigger, broader. I hate to say it, looks more like a bodybuilder.
Yeah, he does.
He's round. Right, he's rounder like a traditional bodybuilder was round.
Right.
And I'm sure his V taper's better. You can't see it here, but I mean that's his calling card, the V taper, the wide shoulders, small waist.
And then let's pull up our Class D winner, Jordan Carroll, who I actually work with. He was knocking on the door this past year, and I told him one more show. Let's just do it. And he showed up at his best, and he gets the pro card in that Class D. Great structure. I think he'll be good once he can add a little bit more size too for the in the pro ranks. Because the weight classes are different. I think that's going to give him the ability. We had to keep his weight low, and you know how that is. If you try to suck down too much and hold your weight low, you lose a little volume. But what? This at the amateur level, it's really a conditioning structure type of situation, don't you think?
Sure. And without a doubt.
And let's take a look at our Class A winner, Joshua Langbean. Let me pull the picture of him. He's really good too. I like how all these classic guys have their own style of posing too. Like like in bodybuilding, pretty much everyone copies each other. These guys have a lot of creativity.
They do this, right? And just walk in point, and no one has any. Yeah.
It's
classic guys got styles. They got style.
Yeah, they definitely got style.
And you know what the thing is with classic, Dave, is there's different types of structures in classic that still look very classic, that still look juxtaposed next to each other, totally different.
Explain what you mean by that.
In men's pro bodybuilding, we have one body. It's a lot of mass straight across the board, and everyone's trying to control their gut.
Right.
There's some variances from that, of course, but that is a predominant look. In classic, you can have guys with the front delt bicep. You'll never see this in the open. People doing a front delt bicep, and they can sit on their abs, and it looks right. Nobody sits on their abs in the open because then they'll look shallow. Interesting.
You're right.
And then in the classic, you could be standing next to someone who does a giant vacuum, and they get the killerest vacuum you've ever seen.
Right.
You have people on the side, hit their side chests different in the classic.
Mm-hmm.
there's just there's a lot of, go back to 1983 Mr. Olympia, 1985 Mr. Olympia. If you had the top 10 Olympians looked vastly different in shapes and flows. And you have that in the classic. You have that in the classic Olympia. Bumstead is very different.
I like that. Yeah,
than Breon.
Yeah.
And Breon is very different than who got second in the anyhow.
Rough Diesel.
Rough Diesel. They're different physiques, whereas there's not a lot of variance in physiques between, let's say, Ian. I always call him Ian Harrison.
Ian Valier.
And Hunter and Steve Kuklo. I mean, they have power physiques, but nothing radically different shape-wise than the other. Does that make sense?
No, I know what you're saying. No, I like all the different. It's like,
well, part of the attraction to the classic is everyone has a very unique.
Well, Chris, there's a reason why, because each guy for his particular height can only weigh so much. So you're going to see short guys and tall guys competing against each other, whereas in the open, it's the guys are kind of the same height, and then you got the 212. The guys are a little shorter, really. I mean, aside from the Hadi Shupins or the William Bonacks that kind of are on the shorter side, it pretty much is all, the same. The height is pretty much the same in those.
I guess trying to draw that distinction is trying to make that distinction a little bit more without, I think it might leave people offended. But if, like, between Ian, who's great, and Librato, who's great, and Steve Kuklo, who's great, if you take those three, let's just say, and put the most insane condition on Kuklo, he beats them. If you put the most insane condition on Ian, he beats them. If you put the most insane condition on Hunter, he beats them. Now go to the classic Olympia. If you put the most insane condition on Breon, he might not beat him.
Well, they all have insane conditioning.
I know that. I know they have great condition, but there's other things to weigh in evaluating the physique.
Sure.
Whereas,
including presentation, which is big.
Yeah. Whereas in the open, it can, that's how physiques are homogenous, because condition can kill everyone else and that's it. Whereas in the classic, you can come in, someone could have the craziest condition, end up 8th place. You could say, how was front double? Oh, it was crazy. Back double. Best condition back double. Well, why didn't he win? Well, because, and you can come up with legitimate reasons why he didn't win.
That's true. Let's look at the men's physique overall champion, Tom Cox. I almost, it's got to a point now, Chris, where the men's physique guys are bigger than the classic guys, upper body wise. There's no doubt, right?
I mean, maybe not this guy, but there's at the pro level.
He's as big as any of the classic guys for sure. Come on.
Well, I mean, he's not as good as the classic winner. He's not nearly as thick,
Yeah, he's got a lot of muscle, this guy, though. I'd like to see him hit a front double bicep. But no, I think the physiques that are competing today, especially in the classic and the men's physique divisions, are light years from what we saw when the divisions first started. It's like the evolution was so fast, right?
Yeah,
that
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I mean, this class was essentially a beach class.
Yeah, beach body.
And that's why I used to call it the board shorts, for like body surfing, and it was 100%, in my opinion, the first couple of years, like, boring, because you didn't see.
Well, that's why guys
special.
That's why guys like Mark Anthony, who was the first Mr. Olympia, can't compete anymore today, because the physiques have changed so much that his physique is not the same physique that they're looking for anymore. They want a bigger, massive, thicker, denser guy. That's not the way his body works,
Yeah, at the Olympia level, this division is the top 5 are off the hook.
Nuts, right? I mean, those guys, I'd love every one of those top 5 guys. I'd love to see them with legs on stage competing in classic. I bet you a lot of them would do well.
I heard straight from Steve Weinberger that if there was a dead tie, they'd have to have him, and they couldn't make the decision. They'd have to pull him up and, I'm kidding. And take a look at their quads. We can't make a decision. Let's see your quads.
I only announced the men's open. I have to rest my voice. I don't want to waste it on these men's physique guys. You know. I had to throw that in. Sorry, Chris.
You love it, Dave.
Is that unprofessional of me?
No, I don't think it's unprofessional at all. Not one bit. No. You know what? Tit for tat. It's called tit for tat.
That's right. What did you think of the Arnold Classic lineup that was announced?
It's brutal. Brutal.
I don't know why people were saying it's not good. I think it's freaking great.
What's not good about it?
I don't know. Some people are saying, they're hemming and hawing. I think it's a phenomenal lineup. Spearheaded by Brandon Curry, you know, going in.
You got, you know.
Good move or bad move for Curry?
Oh, great move. Great move. I mean, how do you categorize it? How would one categorize it as a poor move?
Well, why isn't Hadi Chupin in the show?
Because Hadi's dead serious on winning the Olympia. Yeah,
but the Olympia is not till December.
You know what? It's. I think it's a great move on Hadi's part, because I think, you know what, I think Hadi compares better with Ramy than he does with Brandon.
Yes, 100%.
A two-person call out. He compares better with Ramy than he does with Brandon. So I think it's a great move on Brandon's part, and I think it's a great move on Hadi's part. And I think, you know, it's my just guessing, but I'm a good guesser. Yeah. Is it means Hadi's really serious about, you know, I want to win the Olympia, because at worst case scenario, Hadi gets second here. Right. Period. At the Arnold. He's either first or he's second. So he's saving it all to, you know.
Well, the prize money at the Arnold, Chris, I'm hearing through a little bird chirping in my ear, is going to be $200,000. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
Brandon is the smartest guy. Brandon has become the modern era Dexter Jackson, right?
Get the check. Because you know what? I don't have any more shows I'm going to do. Meanwhile, Brandon will go 10 more years probably. But he doesn't know. Let me collect my check. I'm the number 2 guy in the world. Ramy's not going to be at the Arnold. I'm going. He's smart. Great move on Brandon's part. Great move. And you know what? I think, you know, I can't imagine that Hadi is sitting with a bank account full of money at this point. I know. I think it's a bad move. I think he can go to this show, and if he does win it and he does beat Brandon, that gives him tremendous momentum going into the Olympia, which is 9 months later. I mean, they got plenty of time to rest and recuperate and come back better. It's not like it's the usual, you know, September and March. There's a lot more time to get ready, you know. Well, he weighed what he wanted to accomplish versus, you know, what the shortfall is potentially doing the Arnold. You know, maybe he thinks they won't give him the Arnold, or maybe he's just serious about doing the Olympia. I think that if it was close, they would give him the Arnold. I think Arnold would love to, you know, raise his hand up there. I don't know. I mean, he could win it. Brandon could win it. I mean, I'm just not one to forget Hadi Chupin for a minute, because he's not in the lineup, so it doesn't even matter. It's a moot point at this point. Brandon Curry. Well, it matters if you're Brandon Curry that he's not in it, because you don't have the pressure of, you know, having him breathing down your neck. But maybe that's not good. Maybe Brandon doesn't take it as serious because he knows Hadi's not there. That could be also. Sometimes I think when Brandon's back is against the wall, no pun intended from the Cicherillo star earlier, but when Brandon's back is against the wall and he's got to perform, he seems like he delivers. Like he delivered this past Olympia tremendously, you know. Well, he delivered 2 in a row after. The irony is he won and he got a lot of pushback, you know, the year that he won, in terms of, God, that's not Olympian level conditioning. And he's put together after that 2 really good Olympians. He had the super sharp look. Isn't it funny, Chris, how people will compliment you when you're second, but when you win, everyone hates you. Why? Who are they? No, I'm saying when he won, people were doubting. He wasn't. No, because when he won, he was just like. When he won, the bottom line is he got the W. In the record books, no one will even remember what he looked like at that show, except you and me. That's it. Yeah, that was. Yeah, he won, and you know, I mean, the Olympia that year was not a competitive Olympia. But you and I'll say, but he was so amazing in 20 and 21. People are like, but he only came in second place. Well, he was amazing. I mean, a fact is a fact. He was amazing last year. He was more amazing last year, and he was amazing in it was this year, 2021. He was amazing, and he was, close to amazing in 2020. His condition was outstanding in 20, just that he had lost a little bit of roundness.
Question for you, Chris. How do you think Cedric will do?
Cedric will do as well as he puts his mind to. Whatever
Is
his
his
focus
mind in
is.
it? Is his mind still in bodybuilding?
I think so. Yeah, I mean he's I think so.
Yeah, I think I didn't know he had COVID. He had a very bad case of COVID.
Yeah, I mean you can't count out Cedric just by virtue of his structure is better than everyone's. He's bigger than everyone. He's and he's the last guy to beat Kai Green.
Yep.
I know it was a long time ago, but he did beat Kai Green in prejudging and the night show by all bodybuilding judging votes. That says something, So, he has the ability to put it together, period. Will he put it together?
Who do you think will be a surprise in this lineup?
Rafael Brindale.
You do?
Okay. Huge surprise. Huge.
He's looking in the pictures I see of him now, and since the show, he blew up. He looks like he gained 5 or 6 pounds of muscle. The guy's huge.
Yeah. I mean, there's a backstory to his, just that's my prediction that he will go way higher than, like radically higher than people expect, and he's beaten a lot of these people in the lineup already.
True. Now, no one's mentioning William Bonac.
Because he had a bad placing at the Olympia, and you're only as good as your last placing. Michael Jackson said you're only as good as your last album.
He historically has always got himself looking really good at this show. Normally, this is a good show usually for Bonac.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. He could have been higher at the Olympia this year. I mean, his condition at the Olympia was tremendous.
Yeah.
It just, he doesn't have the frontal quads that he had like 4 years ago. And I think that takes, okay, we love Carlos Thomas because he looks like a cartoon. And, we love Bonac because he looks like a cartoon. And if one body part is missing on a cartoon, you can pick the person apart and say Nate Speer should have won. Why? Because Carlos Thomas' legs were down.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening with Bonac is, everyone's legs get smaller as they continue. Not only as they get older, Dave, but the more shows they do in their competitive career, for some reason, legs are hard to hold on to. I have no idea why.
Yeah. Well,
LeVrone, it happened to. Jay's legs were bigger.
LeVrone had an injury in his knee, which I think was what limiting his ability to squat. And I think the same thing. I think Bonac had a knee injury, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and when you have a knee injury, Rolly went down a lot in terms of his total physique after his knee injury. Because as Jose points out, when you have a knee injury or a hip injury, it affects, you doing legs. And we always, Dave, when you remember, we used to read about Tom Platz would say, well, when you train legs heavy, it causes everything to grow. He's right. Yeah. And if you can't train them heavy, it's hard to hold on to your mass.
If you train them asymmetrically because you're off a little bit, it can make your physique look off a little bit too, right?
Well, yeah, and it also affects, bent over rows, as Jose says, or,
it's
T-bar
amazing.
rows where you have to support yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've seen this happen to myself too. How you can go from looking so good, okay, and you think everything's fine. You go into the gym, everything's working good, and all of a sudden you get like one little hiccup. Milos said it. Remember, Milos was competing 100 times a year. One little break he took, and it was like he couldn't get back to that place he was at like a month ago.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but that's how it happens. Like with physiques, it's like your physique's there one day, it's just not there.
Dave, I call it your body's on a roll. And you know what I mean? When Dave, better than anyone, is when you were growing, your body was on a roll, and like every 3 days you were getting bigger. Something was getting bigger.
Yep.
And when you break that momentum, for whatever reason, it breaks. That, it's hard to get that. It's almost like a steam engine. Trying to get a steam engine going, it takes so long to get the thing going. Once you get it going down the track, it can, hammer it down the track.
Only Dexter could light it up again and get it going again. He did it like 2 or 3 times. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah. I know Dexter's retired, but he's looking at that 200K.
Yeah.
Saying, Gail.
He's like, I can do one more. Let me do one more. I'll win 25 Arnold Classics. Yeah. Dexter, we don't know how he did it. He fucking showed up and everyone was off, and he was he wins it. But I mean, look, I like the fact that we have a very competitive lineup here, and I think it's going to go from an Olympia that was exciting as it was, and now to go right to the Arnold Classic, which is, I mean, literally around the corner when you think about it. It's in 2 months, right? I mean, with a lineup like this, I think it's phenomenal. I feel like bodybuilding's back, even though, the government will tell us that COVID's all over the place. I mean, but I really think that we have a really solid base of not only good pros now, but upcoming amateurs, as was indicated in what we see here at the NPC Nationals, that is now feeding that pro division, which I think we're heading, and I said this a couple of years ago, I think we're heading into another golden age of bodybuilding where we're going to see some really, really great competition, new young guys coming up that are going to be around for the next 10, 15 years. And I think we're going to see another resurgence in great
Renaissance, Dave. Yeah. I'm glad I know on the show forever we've crapped on the Arnold Classic for the prize money. So I'm just glad to see that the prize money is going up. Mm-hmm. And it gives people who just got their pro cards some aspiration of like, maybe I can get some of that money. Not that people who are winning the Nationals are trying to do it and thinking, I got to get the Arnold paycheck. But it doesn't hurt that people you look up to are going to be competing in a few weeks for real money as opposed to like so.
And I love the fact that Arnold has recommitted himself. They raised the prize money up. I've been talking. David Bay works for the Arnold Classic people now. Him and I text and talk, and they're really, really, the Arnold people have always been on board with promoting the show and wanting the best. But I think Arnold has really rededicated himself to wanting to raise the prize money. And look, we've been talking about, Chris, you've been talking about this for a good 2 years now.
Oh my God, critical.
And so someone's listening. I like that. Don't you feel that, your words were not falling upon deaf ears,
And I'm going to take 40% of the winnings for those who follow gossip.
But no, it's all good for the athletes. It's all about the promotion. The question is, will we see a show by The Rock? I mean, we've been hearing about The Rock.
If it doesn't happen this year, dude, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was originally hearing 22, but I can't imagine that we wouldn't even have a projected date, if it was going to happen in 22 at this point, So
well, you want my gut?
Yeah,
it's absolutely going to happen, and Arnold upped the prize money because it's going to happen.
Oh, so you think he did that in
absolutely.
reaction?
Absolutely.
Well, I heard, originally people were saying how they were going to be $1 million per weight per division in prize money. I talked to someone who seemed to be a little bit more in the know, and they were saying it was going to be $1 million for all the divisions across the board that was going to be split up evenly. So
when people told me it was going to be $1 million, I said, I forgot who it was. I said, that was a prediction too. That is not going to happen.
No.
Period. No. You know why? Because you don't have to.
But think about it this:
you don't have to pay someone $40 an hour if they're going to work for 20.
If there's $1 million split between 10 divisions or 8 divisions, or whatever it is, and the wellness champ is getting the same 80 grand or whatever that the men's open is, I mean, do you think the men's open guy is going to still want to do the show?
I don't know, but you can't be The Rock and put on. You cannot give out 50 grand first prize.
Yeah, you got to get more.
It's an embarrassment.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't be The Rock. Right?
Don't you think that if I was going to hold a new show and I'm The Rock, right, I would do what Arnold did. How about just start out by holding a men's open and give away 500 grand, to the winner? I think that would be a more successful business model than trying to get every division in there and have to
Dave,
parcel out the money.
When you start a supplement company, you don't say we're going to come up with 15 products.
Right. No.
You say, we're going to try to gain traction with 3.
You're right.
And, hopefully 2 might stick and you get rid of the other one. And then over time you say, we're going to add product 4, 5, 6, 7. So to start with every division, it to me sounds ludicrous.
Yeah, I agree. But, look, who am I? It's not my money. I love spending other people's money, right? It's so much fun.
Let me tell you how I'd do it if I had, to write the checks for.
I take my hat off to these promoters. I don't know if I would have the balls to hold a show of that caliber to give out that kind of prize money. It's a big nut you have to be able to fill, every single time. And it's scary because you got to get sponsors, you got to put people in seats, you got to hope there's no COVID, there's a million variables where you can lose your shirt doing this. It's a very risky.
You know what? Yeah, it's very risky. I mean, promoting a show, there's doing anything in business entails risk. That goes for even the most successful businesses.
True. All right, Chris, we're going to wrap this Sunday Night Live up. I want to once again congratulate all the winners and pro card recipients and all the competitors who competed at the NPC Nationals this past weekend in Orlando. And Gary, you did a phenomenal job promoting that show. Really, really impressed. And congratulations to all the people who were invited to the Arnold Classic. And that's going to be an exciting event in and of itself. And Chris, you have a very happy and peaceful rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go. I actually might watch some TV tonight. How about that?
Oh, nothing's better than watching TV.
Usually it's 2 a.m. when we're done. I got to go run and go sleep.
I just started watching TV with one of my sons, and they're like, "You're watching TV?" You're like, "Yeah, I never watch TV."
What do you watch when you watch?
I've been watching the series. See, I catch up with things like I watched the Lost series 10 years after.
I love
it. And I thought it was like something new. People are like, "What? That's like 10 years old."
Yeah.
And I've been watching Breaking Bad.
I've seen it. That was very good. Very well done.
Very well written.
Yeah, and, it's like you have to have a very creative mind to even come up with that whole concept to begin with.
That's what I told my son. I said, this came from someone's brain.
Someone was really doing this, right? Exactly.
Yeah. To think this all the way through.
All right. As we say every week here at Heavy Muscle Radio with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. Have a great week.